Smith, Kendrick Perkins, I'm Molly Karam. How we doing? Big time out there in Miami. You loving life?
What's up,
living
y'all?
your best one? You good?
What's going on? What's going on? How y'all
got
doing?
out of Cleveland real quick. I see that. How we doing, Perk? All right. We're gonna go right into it. I think Perk missed that there. Okay, guys, all the All-Star action, LeBron, Steph Curry, both making news. We'll get into that in a moment. But first, we begin in Michigan. The major story: Michigan coach Juwan Howard took a swipe at Wisconsin assistant Joe Krabenhoff's face in the postgame handshake line after arguing with Wisconsin coach Greg Gard, setting off a brawl involving coaches and players from both sides. Howard said he was angry over the timeout usage by Wisconsin, who called two in their last minute of their 77-63 win. The Big Ten said it will take swift and appropriate disciplinary action once it completes a review. Here's Juwan.
I didn't like the timeout being called, and I'll be totally honest with you. I thought it was, not necessary at that moment, especially being in a large lead, and then for to have a timeout to be called with 3 seconds or 4 seconds to go. I thought that was, what I felt wasn't fair to our guys. And so that's what happened. Touching me unnecessary wasn't cause for that when we were talking. And at that point, I thought that was, time to protect myself.
He came up to me and pulled his max down and said, "I'll remember that." And he started pointing it at me and tapped me in the chest. And I said, "Hold on. Let me explain to you why I took the timeout." Maybe he doesn't know the rule that you get the 10 seconds reset. I wasn't going to put my players in that type of situation to have to break a press in 4 seconds.
All right. Here's a statement from University of Michigan Athletic Director Ward Manuel. I'm aware and watched the end of our men's basketball game. There's no excuse for any of our staff or student athletes to get into a physical altercation with others, regardless of instigating factors. I reached out and apologized to Chris McIntosh, and President Mary Sue Coleman has reached out to UW Chancellor Rebecca Blank to apologize for the totally unacceptable behavior. We will review the situation more thoroughly and work with the Big Ten Conference as they determine their disciplinary actions, and will determine if further disciplinary actions are warranted. Okay, Mr. Smith, I'm going to start with you here. Should Juwan Howard be fired?
I'm not going to go that far. I've got too much respect for Juwan Howard and the man and the player and the coach that he has been. I got a lot of love for this brother, and it's going to be very difficult for me to go to that point, but I will say this. He should be suspended immediately. It should be for the rest of the season. I'm talking about the rest of the regular season, the conference tournament. If they were fortunate enough to get to the NCAAs, that too, he should not be allowed to coach another game this season. And if he ends up getting fired, if he ends up avoiding getting fired, he would be a very lucky individual, because I'm of the opinion it's entirely possible that Juwan Howard's going to be fired within the next 24 hours. I don't think we can rule that out. I'm not advocating for it. I would never wish that on this brother. He's a good man, and he's a good brother. But you cannot do what he did. You just can't. You can talk about, what do you mean protecting yourself from Greg Gard? Greg Gard shouldn't have touched him. I don't believe he should have called the timeout. You're up 14 points. It's a few seconds left. Come on, man. Work on what you got to do in practice in terms of your team handling the press and all of that stuff. Come on, don't. Yeah, the rule is the rule, but you didn't have to afford it. There's a gentleman's understanding amongst coaches. There's certain things that you just don't do, and I think that he was wrong to do that. Fair enough. And if people want to point to the fact that he grabbed Juwan Howard to try and talk to him when he knew that Juwan Howard didn't want to talk to him, and that warrants a game suspension or whatever, all right, so be it. But the biggest culprit here, unfortunately, is Juwan Howard. His actions were inexcusable. You swung at the assistant coach. You swung at him through people that were in front of y'all. I don't even know if that assistant coach touched you, but you certainly touched him. You threw a punch and you started damn near a brawl, unless people want to call that a brawl. It was instigated by the head coach of a national program. How could you possibly excuse that when you're supposed to be a leader of men? How could you possibly excuse that when you're the one that's supposed to be setting the example? Juwan Howard failed miserably in that regard. And then to go into the post-game conference, show no contrition or remorse whatsoever, basically tried to defend your position as if to say, okay, because you didn't like the timeout and you felt it was classless on guard's part or what have you, and then he grabbed you, you put your hand in his face and you told him don't touch you. He was trying to talk to you, but you told him don't touch you. You didn't want to. Well, what does that have to do with you swinging and connecting on a slap or punch or whatever you want to call it with the assistant coach? And then the players that ultimately got into it in the aftermath of all of that, they did so because, again, once Juwan Howard swung that punch, Wisconsin reacted in predictable fashion. The players followed up and did, they were trying to protect their coach. And then all of a sudden, blows were thrown. In the end, it comes down to if Juwan Howard doesn't throw the punch, none of this happens. You cannot be the head coach of a program and do something like that. He should not be allowed to coach for the rest of the season.
Well, Stephen A., listen, here's the thing, okay? I agree with you. He should get some type of penalty, okay? He should, in my opinion, Juwan Howard should get suspended, but he shouldn't get fired because Greg Gard played a huge role in this, in being petty. He knew what he was doing calling that timeout. He know going in Wisconsin, that crowd was already rocking. It's a hostile environment. He knew what he was doing. And by the way, when they were in the handshake line, Juwan Howard actually was trying to walk past him, not even trying to talk to him. And when a grown man tells you, don't put your hands on me, hey, don't put your hands on him. That's what escalated the whole thing. By that time, he had already lost his cool. You can see right there at the end of the game. So, and then Greg Gard, he goes into the post-game interview, and he's still saying he's not showing no type of accountability as well when he knew what he was doing. He threw the line out there in the water. He had the shrimp on the hook. He set his reel and he set his line in the water, and Juwan Howard took the bait. He took the bait. Look at it. This instigating at its finest. This is instigating at its finest. He know that Juwan Howard was mad. Why even go over there trying to talk to the man? Leave him alone. Now, I'm not saying that Juwan Howard was right. He should never throw a punch. You're right, he is a leader of men. He has to lead by example. This guy, we're talking about a guy that had a hell of an NBA career, a Michigan legend, Fab Five, all that across the board. But both of these guys played a part in it, Stephen A. Let's not let Greg Gard off the hook. He played a huge role in instigating and being petty as well.
Well, okay, Kendrick Perkins, let's call him petty. Let's call him somewhat culpable. Let's suspend him to some degree as well for at least the game. We get all of that. I understand that. I'm not disagreeing with that. And I certainly hope that Juwan Howard does not get fired because I love the brother and I'm rooting for him and I want him to succeed at Michigan. But let's take this into account. You are a head coach. You've gone into parents' homes in an effort to convince them to let their kids come to play for your program. As a college coach, as a leader of young men, you're supposed to be showing them the way because by conducting yourself in appropriate fashion, that gives them guidance as to how they're supposed to act moving forward so they don't find themselves in situations similar to this one. You failed miserably in that regard. That's number one. Number two, Kendrick Perkins, and most importantly, you pointed out Gard and what he did wrong. What did the assistant coach do? We don't know. He might have said something, but the reality is that's who Juwan Howard hit. So the person that you, Kendrick Perkins, said, let's not let off the hook, that he's responsible to some degree for instigating this whole situation, he wasn't even the one that got hit. Juwan Howard swung on the assistant coach. What was the excuse for that? Because the assistant coach didn't hit you. The assistant coach didn't touch you. He wasn't the one who touched you or got in your face. You went over people to swing on him. And as a result, there were players that followed up. And of course, the situation got a lot out of control. If you are a program, the Michigan Wolverines program, why do you think the athletic director chimed in immediately and called Wisconsin to apologize and had the president call their chancellor to apologize? Because in the end, they know there is no excuse. There is no justification for Juwan Howard doing what he did. That's the issue here, unfortunately. It truly is.
I understand all that, Stephen A., and I'm not disagreeing with you for as Juwan Howard in his actions. But I will say this. When we talk about setting the example, I agree with you. When you talk about walking into, parents' homes and trying to get their kids to come to schools and things of that nature, I don't disagree with you at all. But let's not act like we didn't praise Bob Knight for choking people and throwing chairs and things to that nature, and how people were saying Bob Knight is but a lot of people did, and he got away with a lot. So let's not act like we haven't seen way worse from other coaches in the collegiate level that they didn't got away with certain things and just got off with a suspension. Here's my thing is, let's not overblow this situation because because it's Juwan Howard. And I feel like right now we're taking it way over the top. Not you, Stephen A. You said a suspension, but I'm talking to the people out there that's talking about getting him fired because I done seen way worse. But my whole thing is, what did that assistant coach say to Juwan Howard to make him swing a lick? I'm not saying it's right, but he said something. And again, I'm going back to God. Let him walk, man.
All right.
When a man tell you, don't touch me, don't touch me.
Hold on. Wait a minute. He told him don't touch him once he touched him. It's not like he said to him, don't touch me, and then the man went and touched him anyway. He touched him, and then he said, get your hands off me, don't touch me. That's number one. So it's before, not after. Number two, it doesn't matter what the assistant coach said. And Kendrick Perkins, not to make light of it, because I'm not making light of it, of course not, but let's use you as an example. You were a player. You were physical. You didn't mind being an enforcer, all of this other stuff. I know of instances where you had to deal with some cats, but guess what? As a player, even you knew. Let's go around the back in the tunnel. I'll see you there. You understand? You got into some confrontations, and it was in the hallway. Mm-hmm. It wasn't on a court where a damn melee could start. Number three, you did that as a player, not as a coach. Now, to buffer your point, you're absolutely right about Bobby Knight's behavior. Let's not forget the former coach at LSU, Dale, Shaq's, who Shaq loves very dearly, when he came out on a court and pushed a player because of how somebody had hacked Shaq. And then that ultimately started something as well. Yes, you are absolutely right. We've seen certain instances. But in reality, at the end of the day, when we talk about a coach, at the end of a game, you salty because you lost. You salty because this guy called an unnecessary timeout, which you thought was very unsportsmanlike. You got plenty of time after the game to go and confront the man. You don't have to do it right there on the court where it causes that kind of ruckus.
I absolutely understand it's unacceptable. I'm from the camp of not judging people by their worst decision or their worst action, but I understand their standards as well. If Juwan had shown a little more remorse or was a little more apologetic post-game, would you feel at all differently about this situation in terms of suspending him for the season?
No, I wouldn't feel differently about suspending him. Listen, the reality of the situation is your actions are what stand out most. I don't enjoy this. I love Juwan Howard. I want him to keep his job. I don't want him fired. I know that this incident is not emblematic of his character and who he is as a man, a player, a professional. The man played for years, started in Washington, played in Miami and various other players. This brother was, and you know what they said about him? He was class personified. Yeah. Juwan Howard was full of class.
Yeah. And then I don't want this one moment to tarnish it. Yeah.
Hold on. But the point is, you can say what you want. I can say what I want. Kendrick can say what he wants. But the video ain't lying. And the reality is that as the head coach of a program, at mid-court, you swung on a coach and caused a melee. Yeah. The fact is, I'm hoping, and I'm sitting here hoping and praying all he gets is suspended. That he gets to keep his job. Because I'm scared Michigan gonna fire him. Mm-hmm. I'm scared for him. I think they might fire him.
And I have one more question for both of you. What type of punishment should guard receive, if any?
I already said
he should receive. Yeah, Yeah, he should receive a suspension. Look, he instigated that, Molly. Like,
Yeah.
he was petty. He was being petty at his finest. But here's the thing. This is what I want everybody to realize. It is so hard to control your emotions when you are in the heat of the battle, when you're in between those lines, and even when you finish the game in a hostile environment in a conference in a conference game. And people don't realize that. A lot of people don't realize that who never experienced being in the heat of the battle. Like, that's why I'm not a big fan of the shaking the line to shake hands, because guys are still hyped up. Guys are still fired up from a hostile game, or it could have been a close game. That's why I'm not a fan of that at all. Like, just go your separate ways. When I was playing in the NBA, the teams I was on, we never shook hands. That's why I don't understand that to this day. Like, we never shook hands. It should be your personal decision, or you should be granted if you want to do it, but it shouldn't be an obligation to line up and shake hands.
We'll get into all of that a little bit later on in the show, Kendrick Perkins, but I will say this to you. You are completely 1,000% wrong about the coach. The player, yeah. The coach is different. I don't give a damn what kind of heated competition you're in. When you're in that position, there's a responsibility that comes with that position. What you said makes 1,000% sense about players who are on the court, breaking a sweat, banging bodies, doing what they do. But when you are the person that's in a leadership position like that, there's no way around it. That's why you're the coach.
I'm not arguing with you.
You can't absolve him from that.
I'm not arguing with you, Stephen A. All I'm saying is that I've seen way worse. And I'm not saying that he shouldn't get suspended. I'm just saying let's not act like we haven't seen somebody choke, push a player, throw a chair. Like, we've seen way worse. That's all I'm saying. I'm not saying he shouldn't get punished. I'm just saying we've seen way worse from other coaches.
No, I was just addressing the point.
Yeah.
I was just addressing your point about how you were talking about, because it's the heat of action, the heat of the moment. And I'm saying that can't be applicable to the head coach. To the players, yes. But no matter how heated it gets, when you're the coach, there's a different standard. There's a different standard. If it can't be a different standard for coach, we're all screwed.
Yeah,
we're all
of course. I think both of you are right. And Perk saying there's a double standard with coaches from the past, and Stephen A. saying unacceptable because you are a leader of young men. We're also talking about a college coach, not an NBA coach.
Well, Molly, you got to remember, in the past, that so many changes have taken place in our society. There are things that would never be tolerated now that was tolerated. And that's one of the things we've been talking about on First Take for years. The standards have changed from a societal perspective. So the stuff that Coach Bobby Knight or anybody else got away with in the past, they wouldn't last 2 minutes today. Things have changed.
Yep, absolutely. A lot of other major news in basketball to get to. Let's keep it rolling, but we'll have much more on the Michigan story a little bit later. Don't worry. Sun star Chris Paul, unfortunately, going to miss 6 to 8 weeks with a right thumb injury. He has a fracture, a source confirmed to Tim Bontemps. Paul, who was hurt last Wednesday versus the Rockets, came off the bench for Team LeBron in the All-Star game and played 2 minutes. Listen to this, guys. He's the first recipient of the Kobe and Gigi Bryant WNBA Advocacy Award, which recognizes significant contributions to the advancement of girls and women's basketball, along with advocacy for the WNBA. I wanted to make sure to mention that. Just major props to him and all the work he does in the community. Here's how Phoenix looks without him. The Suns have played 873 minutes this season without Paul on the floor. They outscored teams by just 4.2 points per 100 possessions with him off the court compared to 10.5 with him on the floor. That difference of 6.3 is the best mark on the team. Perk, I'll start with you. How does the CP3 injury impact the West?
Well, I don't know how it's going to impact the West, because I feel like the Suns have such a good team, such a good culture, that they're still going to be a top 5 team in the Western Conference. Like, they didn't create so much space, Molly and Stephen A., that they're not just going to fall down into some play-in tournament. But I will say this. I believe Devin Booker is a superstar. Stephen A., you believe that Devin Booker is a superstar. Molly, you believe that Devin Booker is a superstar. Now it's time for Devin Booker to prove to us that he's a superstar, that he could be a superstar and win games without Chris Paul. Because no matter how we want to look at it, the fact of the matter is that Devin Booker has not showed us that he's capable of winning games without Chris Paul yet. And this is his time to show us that he's capable of being not only a superstar and getting buckets, but being a leader of this team and going out there and keeping the boat afloat and going out there and leading his team to victories.
I'm not sure I agree with you about that, Kendrick Perkins, and I'll explain to you why in a minute. Here's the first thing that jumped to my mind. First, let me get this out the way. Here's the first thing that jumped to my mind when I learned that Chris Paul was going to be out. I spoke to him this weekend, but it was before the news came down that he was out. He was going to be out 6 to 8 weeks. The first thing that came to my mind is Phoenix is losing the West. First thing that came to my mind. Because I'm thinking 6 to 8 weeks out, even though knowing Chris Paul, he's going to still be with the team. He's going to still be running practices with Monty Williams, for crying out loud. He's going to still be in the guys' faces, in their ears. He's going to still be traveling with the team. He's going to be that natural-born leader that he is. He is a floor general extraordinaire. And when you consider the greatness of CP3, there's going to be a precipitous drop-off without him being on the court. So I look at Phoenix, and I expect Golden State to keep coming, okay? Now, that doesn't mean that CP3 ain't going to be ready for the playoffs, because he will be. And when he's ready, obviously that's going to make them exponentially better. And plus, his legs are going to be rested, because he would not have been playing, using those legs for the next 6 to 8 weeks. So all of those things come into consideration. But since I picked the Warriors from Jump Street, this is even more of a reason not to jump off that wagon. Okay, that's one thing. All right? Plus, I expect Draymond Green back in about 3 weeks. I think Wiseman's going to be back around the same time as well. That's an additional big body for them. We'll see what happens. Let me address your point about Devin Booker. I would remind you that 3 years before Chris Paul ever arrived in Phoenix, Devin Booker was averaging 25 a game. The brother puts up buckets. You know this better than me, KP. There's a difference between scoring points and running the show and being that quintessential leader. You don't teach what Chris Paul has. Everybody don't have that. And basically what you're saying to me, KP, is that you're going to hold Devin Booker accountable for essentially not being CP3, because he's going to get his points. He's going to produce points-wise. But when you ask him to do the other stuff, KP, I ask you a sincere question, and I'll give it to you. How many people do you know has the kind of leadership ability that CP3 has?
But Stephen A., that's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is I'm not asking Devin Booker to be CP3. But I have seen Devin Booker come out of a game and have 30 points and 10 assists. I'm seeing if Devin Booker is ready to take that step, that next level of greatness. When you're able to get your 25 and get others around you shots and get them 10 to 12 points, like a Ja Morant, like a Luka Doncic, like a Trae Young. That's what I'm ready to see out of Devin Booker. And in actions of him doing that, let it result into wins. I'm ready to see that part of Devin Booker grow. Not Devin Booker just knowing as one of the most prolific scorers. I want to see Devin Booker elevate his game and say, I'm going to go get my 25 and 30, and I'm also going to get these other guys involved. You telling me Devin Booker don't have the capability of doing that? I'm not asking him to be CP3, but I'm asking him to rise to the occasion and show that he got a different level to elevate his game. Jason Tatum doing it right now in Boston.
Well, my response to that would be players were already involved, and Monty Williams, like Devin Booker didn't have the services of Monty Williams available to him as a coach along with that staff until a couple of years ago. So we get that part. But in the end, what it comes down to, if you tell me that Devin Booker is going to be the Devin Booker that before CP3 arrived, that he's going to put up buckets at a very decent, if not good, shooting percentage, his efficiency is going to be there, his point production is going to be there, then as far as I'm concerned, everything else is really, really about Monty Williams. Because my thing is that, listen, when I think about CP3 and the floor generalship that he brings, I just don't see people, and I know you're saying you're not asking Devin Booker to do that, but how do you replace CP3? How do you do that? All you can do is go out on the court and be the best that you can be, but that's not what I mean, who's going to get teammates involved like CP3 does? Who's going to do that?
I'm not saying, but Molly, I'm not, Stephen A., I'm not saying like CP3, but when we list all the young superstars, Donovan Mitchell, Jason Tatum, John Morant, Luka Doncic, Trae Young, you know what they're doing now? They're making others around them better.
They're all point guards.
I'm want to say, Jason Tatum not a point guard.
Oh, no, not Jason Tatum, not Jason.
Right,
I thought you said John Morant and Trae Young and Luka.
We'll leave it there. We'll get into this later. The silver lining here, the Suns did go 4-0 without Chris Paul last season. 2 of those were playoff games. But I want to get to the show last night, and in my opinion, that was Steph Curry. He was unbelievable. Keep booing him because he doesn't care. Scoring 50 from all over. He set the All-Star Game three-point record as Team LeBron won. Curry made a record 16 three-pointers before LeBron James made that turnaround jumper to give his squad the victory over Team Durant. Curry was named the game's MVP for the first time in his career and received the Kobe Bryant Trophy in front of the NBA 75 team.
I would say face and ambassador are 2 different things, and the way I approach it is it's a tremendous honor to know, like, if you say something, do something, it moves the needle because of the way that you play the game and the doors that are open and the impact that you have. And I want to respect that with everything that I do and understand that there's an amazing opportunity with that, an amazing responsibility with that. So I don't technically know how you would categorize it, but I know that it's not just how you put the ball in the basket, it's everything else that comes with that.
So much is given, much is desert. So what he was asked right there is if he's the face of the NBA, and obviously you just heard that response. So Stephen A., I'll start with you. Who is the face of the NBA?
I believe it's Steph Curry, but by default, almost. He's winning, and LeBron is not. That's really what this comes down to for me. Now, if you want to sort of modify it to some degree, LeBron James is a face because of what he does off the court. To me, I'm speaking specifically of on the court. Steph Curry is just his box office. You walk through the turnstiles to see the show that this brother puts on. And even though LeBron puts on his own show and deserves mad credit for that, the Lakers struggle. Steph Curry's winning. And I think that puts him in that place. And I think that when you consider the fact that he's 6'3" and you look at what he does and you see kids going to the park, they know you can't be LeBron 6'9", 260 locomotive coming at you, extraordinary athleticism, strength, and everything else that comes with it. With Steph Curry, you look at him and you say, man, I get in the court, I can shoot jump shots, I can be that. And I think that has a lot to do with elevating his level of popularity, along with the fact that he's incredibly likable. He's class personified. He can shoot from the parking lot. He's the greatest shooter in the history of basketball, and his team is winning. So I think that at this particular juncture in time, that makes him more of a face. It's hard to say anybody's more of a face of the NBA than LeBron James, considering LeBron James' overall resume. But at this particular moment, to me, it's Steph Curry.
Boy, Stephen A., I don't know what's going on in Miami, but you know you lying and the truth ain't nowhere near you. Okay, you know LeBron James is LeBron James is the face of the NBA. Now you go ahead and stop that. You know he's still the top at jersey sales. You know he still got the top in shoe sales. Like, look, here's the thing, man. When it comes down to iconic figures, I'm not taking anything away from Steph Curry, but LeBron James is just in a whole nother stratosphere, man. Like, when you talk about just generational, how guys gravitate towards him, just things to that nature, just him overall. And by the way, his performance is not lacking on the basketball court.
Not at all.
The others around him are not. It's just the
Absolutely.
others around him not getting the job done. But I hate it because, man, Steph is so. I said it last night. I said, man, I tweeted out Stephen A. I said, I'm glad I'm here to appreciate Steph's greatness. Because I want to go to another point real quick. I think LeBron James is the face of the NBA. You think Steph cool, I have no argument with you. That's our opinions on that one. But I will say this about Steph Curry. That trophy, that Kobe Bryant trophy, he earned that by in all means necessary. And I just want to talk about Steph Curry and his mental toughness. I think it was Friday night or Saturday night when he was up there giving a speech, I think him and his wife, and they were booing him in Cleveland, and he came back in the All-Star game and turned them damn boos into cheers. And that's an example. And I get it. It was the All-Star game, but at the end of the day, you could tell that man was on a mission. And that was a message to all other players out there who be out there worrying about people if they go boo them or whatever the case may be. Ben Simmons, listen, that man went out there and turned them boos into cheers and did it in great fashion and put on a damn show. And I love that he was the first person to get that Kobe Bryant award. It was a beautiful moment to see, beautiful moment to watch. But with that being said, LeBron James still the face of the NBA.
Well, listen, I understand where you're coming from, and I echo all the sentiments that you said in praising Steph Curry. And by the way, LeBron James deserves a lot of credit as well, because when you think about what Steph Curry said, just take a moment, y'all, to just pause for a second. See, it's moments like this where we have an obligation on First Take to really, really echo the sentiments when Steph Curry points out the level of work that he put in and what he does behind the scenes when the cameras ain't on to prepare himself to be able to perform like that. And when LeBron is gone, while we're going to miss him so much, just the same way we miss Kobe and Michael Jordan and others, it's not just because of their greatness. It's because of the work that they put in. I can't say enough about LeBron James to be 37 years of age in his 19th season, averaging 29 a game, in constant shape, especially when he's surrounded by some dudes who don't look to be in nearly as good a shape as he is, which seems to be a bit damn inexcusable. But in the end, that's what it comes to. But the only reason that I disagree with Perk on this one, I'm talking strictly on the basketball court because of how Steph has elevated and Golden State is winning. I think what gives LeBron the edge in all sincerity is that you don't hear much about Steph when the season's over. You hear about LeBron year-round because LeBron doesn't just play basketball. He speaks on a lot of different issues, and he's involved in a lot of different things. And because of that, he's so incredibly conspicuous that he's a 24/7 headline. And that is what I think is the difference. When the season's over, Steph Curry, you know, we can't find him unless we look into the nearest golf course.
Yeah, I know we're up against it. I just want to say this quickly to both of you guys. I also feel like there's an age thing, because if someone asked me, I would say LeBron James, just like I would have said Tom Brady. But if you ask Stone or you ask like an 8 or 1010-year-old, they're going to say Steph Curry or they're going to say Patrick Mahomes. So I think that plays a factor as well. But we do
Hold on, Molly.
They might say
Molly, I was going to stop Molly. I want to applaud Molly. I want to applaud Molly this morning, KP. I want to give her a round of applause. For those of you out there, Molly sits up there. She got those allergies that be messing with her. I was going to tell her I didn't want her talking too much today because the allergies was going to get the better of her. But she sounds great. I'm very, very surprised at how great she sounds. She sounds very normal, KP. I just got to give her love and credit. I mean, I thought the allergies was going to have her sounding all nasaled up and everything. But Molly being a trooper this morning.
No,
you go, girl.
You know what?
You go, girl.
You should give me a deal. You should give me a deal with Zyrtec and Nasonex because I doubled
There we
up.
go.
I'll tell
There
you
we
that
go.
much.
There we go. I'll talk to them about that. They'll probably come to me first because of my nose, the schnoz on my face. They'll probably come to me first. But I'm just letting you know. I mean, it is possible that they might come your way. I'm just saying.
I love it. You guys are the best. We got a whole lot more to get into here on First Take. Perk isn't going anywhere. And it's clear LeBron is not happy that the Lakers stood pat. Some would argue his recent comments are sending a message to LA brass. LeBron showed love to Rams GM Les Snead on Twitter after the Super Bowl for going all in, and now he's praising Thunder GM Sam Presti for making moves as well. Take a listen.
The MVP over there is Sam Presti. He the MVP. I mean, Josh Giddey is great. Sam Presti, I don't understand this guy's eye for talent. He drafted KD, Russ, Jeff Green, Serge Ibaka, Reggie Jackson, Josh Giddey. And the list goes on and on and on. This guy's pretty damn good.
All right, so now on ESPN.com, our Brian Windhorst wrote that LeBron used All-Star Weekend to put the Lakers on notice. James has been offended by Lakers management twice over the past 2 weeks. First, when it elected not to make a deal before the February 10th trade deadline, after he had both publicly and privately prodded for something. More accurately, he expected it. In the second, when Lakers GM Rob Pelinka stepped over the line when he announced James was on board with the status quo. A source told ESPN there was no prior sign-off from James. What James is doing is likely aimed at one primary goal: force the Lakers into major action. This summer, he tried to do it nicely, and now he's doing it harshly. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Tell me this. What do LeBron's comments say to you?
Well, what it says to me is that I think that he's pointing the finger at Rob Pelinka, and that's fair, but he has to own some of it himself. LeBron is not innocent in any of this. But before I go any further, Kendrick Perkins, I want to make sure that you knew this. There was a story, I'm reading a story from Yahoo, but also I think it was something in the Bleacher Report. Rich Paul called me yesterday and asked me to quote him on this story about him and Clutch Sports and essentially them wanting the Lakers to trade Russell Westbrook and a first-round pick to Houston for John Wall. He wanted me to state emphatically that there was absolutely positively no truth to that whatsoever. He never did that. He did not do that. The people who wrote the story never contacted him to get any kind of perspective from him on that. It is an absolute lie, and he said, could you please do me a favor and quote me and tell the world that I specifically said that's a damn lie. It's no truth. It never happened. You know, that's just for what it's worth. That's what Rich Paul says about these stories that have been put out there. Fair enough. So I quoted him. Now, LeBron James doesn't get off the hook here. He's playing like an MVP. It's a damn shame the people around him have not. They're the 9th seed, still in position, 4 games under 500 to be in the play-in. And by the way, let's take a moment, KP, to give Portland some love because they'd be in the play-in game if the season were to end today as well. Chauncey Billups, somehow, some way, with this kid Anthony Simons, who's been balling. This brother gonna be worth 25 to 30 million a year. This brother's special, okay? Portland is now in the play-in game. Let's give Chauncey Billups and his staff some love. But to talk about the Lakers, LeBron can't be absolved from this. You got a chance. You got an opportunity to get Buddy Hield. You went with Westbrook. You might have had an opportunity to get DeMar DeRozan. You went with Westbrook. LeBron James ain't innocent in that. You had something to do with the formulation of this roster. So we can point to Rob Pelinka all we want to, and it should be accurate to some degree because you are the GM. Magic Johnson is not there any longer. Rob Pelinka, we didn't forget you got something to do with that because Magic Johnson told us so, okay? And now it's on you, along with Linda and Kurt Rambis, and this is what's been going on in L.A., and so they can't be innocent. They can't be innocent, but I'm not going to sit here and put it all on their shoulders and act like LeBron James had nothing to do with it. You can talk about Sam Presti all you want to, and it's true because Sam Presti has an eye for talent, but it's also important to point out that Sam Presti has never won a championship as an executive. Ever. Not one time. With all that talent. So just like you giving him credit for accumulating all that talent, well, why the hell does Oklahoma City not have one single ring to show for it when you had all the players that he had? Maybe it's because of the coaches that you've chosen. That's another story for another day. But back to LeBron James, you got culpability, bro. I understand what you're saying. You might have a point about that. People talking about shots, not so direct or whatever that you're giving to Rob Pelinka. All I'm saying is don't forget the role you played in it. LeBron James is a basketball savant. But what he showed is why so many people are hesitant to give players control because sometimes your personal relationships impairs your judgment. And as a result, you end up making the wrong decisions. You don't get to be absolved from that reality just because things are not the way you want them to be when you had everything to do with what made it that way.
You know what? It's a few things to unravel from what LeBron James said. And Stephen A., you know you're 100% right. LeBron James had a lot to do with getting Russell Westbrook and so did Anthony Davis, okay? They called the shot. It was the reason why Russell Westbrook went to the front office of the Washington Wizards and got to the Lakers. Okay, but in their defense, they didn't know Russ was going to be this bad. They didn't know that he was going to be this bad. They really didn't, Stephen A. Just think about it. You're trading to get a top 75 greatest player of all time, a walking triple-double. You thinking he coming into his hometown, they didn't expect this type of play out of Russell Westbrook. That's to LeBron James' defense and Anthony Davis, okay? Now, to Rob Pelinka, it was moves out there that he could have made at the trade deadline, but he was holding on to that pick. He didn't want to include the pick. He didn't want to do this. That's where the frustration kicked in, along with him actually lying, saying that all of those guys were in agreement with not making a move at the trade deadline, because that was absolutely false. Here's another thing I want to point out to LeBron James about his interview praising Sam Presti. I love Sam Presti. Sam Presti gave me my biggest contract while I was playing in the NBA. Sam Presti was great to me while I was in Oklahoma City. Stood by my side. Sam Presti do have an eye for talent, but Sam Presti also had a co-partner. It was a Robin that he had. That
Troy
I didn't
Weaver.
like how LeBron James, Troy Weaver. And so when we talk about this is the things that guys like LeBron James have to keep in mind when he go up to the podium and he speak on situations like this, because this is why you get those African Americans hired in those positions, is when you go up there and you say, Sam Presti, he drafted this and he got an eye for this. That may be true, but Troy Weaver was right there on this side the whole entire time, scouting those same players.
And he was the liaison with those relationships with the players, those players that were picked. Yes.
Start mentioning those brothers' names. That's the problem I have with that. Mention his name, man.
We're up against it. Got to get into a commercial break here, but I promise you we'll get into this more in the second hour. Let's just roll right now, though. Hit the top of the hour here. Things got ugly, and Juwan Howard took a swipe at Wisconsin assistant Joe Kravenhoff's face in the postgame handshake line after arguing with Wisconsin coach Greg Gard, setting off a brawl involving coaches, players, both sides. Howard said he was angry over the timeout usage by Wisconsin, who called two in their last minute of the 77-63 win. The Big Ten said it will take swift and appropriate disciplinary action. Here's Juwan.
I didn't like the timeout being called, and I'll be totally honest with you. I thought it was, not necessary at that moment, especially being in a large lead, and then for to have a timeout to be called with 3 seconds or 4 seconds to go. I thought that was, what I felt wasn't fair to our guys, and so that's what happened. Touching me unnecessary wasn't cause for that when we were talking, and at that point, I thought that was, time to protect myself.
He came up to me and pulled his max down and said, "I'll remember that," and he started pointing it at me and tapped me in the chest, and I said, "Hold on, let me explain to you why I took the timeout." Maybe he doesn't know the rule that you get the 10 seconds reset. I wasn't going to put my players in that type of situation to have to break a press in 4 seconds.
Okay, our Dick Vitale had this to say on the matter, tweeting, "The time has come to eliminate the line after games of shaking hands. Too many incidents taking place with the action in the Wisconsin versus Michigan being sickening. Punches thrown behavior was out of control and ugly. The commish must act on what happened." Perk, before I go to you here, I just want to say earlier you both said that you did feel like Juwan deserves a suspension, even Gard possibly for a game as well, but you didn't want him to lose his job. Perk, tell me this. Do you agree that the handshake line should go away?
Yes. I've never been a fan of it anyway. Look, when you in between those lines and you competing, and especially when you get to the collegiate level and the pro level, look, all that friendly stuff is out the window. And I get it. People want to say good sportsmanship and show a great example. But what you're getting right now is you're getting more bad than you're getting good. And this is not the first incident that didn't happen this year for us in the handshake line. One just happened last week with Oral Roberts in North Dakota State, where they had a full-out brawl because a guy dunked the ball and look, here it is right here. Like, just do away with it. But because it's so much built up that it's hard to decompress and put your pride aside during that moment. Just everybody go their separate ways and go to their locker rooms and let the game be over with. So I've been against the handshake rule. I never was a guy that shook hands on the court after a game, and I'm just not with it. I think it would be best, especially right now for the college level, that they go away from it.
I think that's utterly ridiculous. But I'm talking specifically, Kendrick, about the coaches. You were a player. You were in the heat of action. It's not to say that the coaches are not, but it's different for you, bro. You younger, you're in the heat of action, you out there throwing blows, banging bodies. You know, the level of production or lack thereof ultimately could affect your future. And it's not to say that a coach doesn't have the same obligation. But in the end, you are a grown-up. You're a grown man. You're an adult as a coach. And there is no reason on earth why a coach and coaches should refrain from having to give handshakes. I understand on occasion if stuff gets ugly and y'all were battling back and forth, that particular game itself, I understand there are occasions and incidences and moments where you obviously can go away from something like that. But to sit up here and to listen to a Dick Vitale or others, I'm not saying I know specifically what they said because I don't know. I don't know Dick Vitale's specific position, Jay Billis's and Seth Greenberg, who I love and respect tremendously. I don't know what their specific position is on this. But what I will say is, can we step back for a second and pause, KP, and really take into account what we're asking for here? Grown men who are leaders, who have been accomplished to some degree in their careers, we want them to refrain from shaking hands. You can't stomach it in the interest of sportsmanship and being an adult and understand there are bigger pictures than yourself. If you're that coach, you can't understand that you have an inherent obligation to uphold a standard of decorum that comes with a professional realm that you chose to be in. Nobody forced them to be a coach. Nobody compelled them to do it. They wanted to do it. They signed up for this. We're on TV right now. Kendrick Perkins, I've heard you curse before. You know I do.
So
okay, I mean, you know I do. You understand what I'm saying? I mean, there are things that I say off camera that ain't fit for FCC airwaves. I'll be damned if I do them on the air. Because you know why? Because I know better. And it comes as a responsibility with the role that we have. We're asking grown men to absolve themselves from that, or remove themselves from that, because they can't control their emotions enough to shake a hand after competition is over. It's ridiculous.
I know, but Stephen A., let me tell you, I've been watching a lot of college basketball this year, and this is not the first incident where you didn't have coaches get into it the line to shake hands. Like, this has happened time and time again throughout the course of this year, where coaches are getting into it. Not just players, coaches, because they're so passionate. And by the way, real quick, wasn't you one of the, you know about passion, right? Because wasn't you the only coach in celebrity game history to get a technical foul?
Yeah. I mean, and I'm proud of it. And I'm proud of it.
That's hilarious.
That's what I'm saying.
About that
but,
oh my goodness.
But you were so passionate. I'm just saying, sometimes, man, especially as a former player. Go ahead.
I got to come back to you. First of all, I did not attack the referee physically. I said, come on, I got attacked. Secondly, I didn't attack the NBA for fixing it for Michael Wilbon and Common and their Chicago crew. The fix was in. After the game was over, I did shake Wilbon's head, even though he was a part of the fix that was put in. And now let me get back to Michigan on a far more serious level. First of all, let's take a couple of things into consideration. Juwan Howard, are we going to forget the Fab Five and what they've been through with the University of Michigan? We never dreamed in our wildest dreams that any Fab Five member, considering what that school, in my opinion, unfairly did to the Chris Webbers and Jalen Roses of the world and others, but we never thought in our wildest dreams that a Fab Five member would get the job. And they hired Juwan Howard. He comes onto the scene, his first year on the job, they're 19-12. Last year, they go to a regional final. He finishes 23-5. They're just 14-11 this year. So your frustrations may not have been just about that game. Your frustration may have been about this season. In the end, what I'm saying is, Juwan Howard, we've seen Juwan Howard as an NBA player. We saw him at Michigan as a Fab Five member. In the NBA, he has always been synonymous with class. He understood what responsibility he had. It came with it. He accepted it. He always seemed to be, ask anybody, I'm here in Miami. Ask the Miami Heat how they feel about Juwan Howard. Okay? Ask all of them. They love the man, and they respect him. You know one of the reasons that you respect him? Because KP, as somebody that's been around him on numerous occasions, he always seems to be the adult in the room. Somebody that could look beyond the fray and understand the bigger picture. And yesterday, he didn't. And if he didn't throw the punch at the assistant coaches, this ain't even news. So what? He's upset. It's Juwan Howard. But to throw a punch and to cause a melee, that's a problem. That's a problem. And there is no excuse for it. And don't tell me, let's get away with a handshake. You a coach, figure out a way to suck it up and shake the hand anyway. You ain't playing, deal with it.
But Stephen A., what I'm telling you is that this has been going on past Juwan Howard this season.
I know.
So what I'm saying was, if you keep saying if this same pattern keeps happening, how are you going to solve the problem? If coaches are not
I got an easy solution. I got an easy solution. What? Because guess what? They can talk all that junk they want. They don't want to lose their jobs. When you show ramifications, watch how that modifies behavior. You don't get to do that as a coach. Now, the players can get away with the heat of the moment and stuff like that. They're kids, right? But you're a grown man. You're a grown man. You don't get to do that. You try that nonsense. Guess what? Let me ask you this question, KP. You were playing in the NBA when Commissioner Stern was the commissioner, God rest his soul. These are professional athletes. What if a professional coach swung on an opposing coach? What would Commissioner Stern have done? And they're professionals. What would he have done?
Oh man, I mean, God rest his soul, but what Commissioner Stern would have done, I mean, what he did to a lot of situations was, he was zero tolerance, zero understanding. And
that's right. And do you know that some of those rules are still in place? They didn't get rid of some of those rules for the professionals. Juwan Howard comes from the professional ranks back to college.
I understand that, Stephen A., but what I'm saying is, okay, at the end of the day, he got caught up in the moment. I'm not justifying or saying that he was right. I don't want him. All I'm saying is that we talking about the handshake. All I'm saying is until they figure something out, they need to get rid of it for right now. I'm not saying for long term, but for short term, because over this college season, I've seen it happen too many times, whether it was with players or coaches, they've been getting into altercations.
I'm a big boss of the NCAA. I'd resolve that by noon today. Any coach that does something like that, the consequences are going to be severe. How much you want to make a bet? Their behavior will be modified inside of 24 hours.
Gentlemen.
It'll be resolved today.
Excuse me, can I say something? This is very simple to me. One word, pandemic. Why are we still shaking hands? Like that alone. Why are we? I don't want to touch anybody's hands. I'm a germaphobe.
Well, I
Very
will
simple
tell you,
to
Molly.
me. At least give
Well,
dap.
Molly,
Like,
they've been doing it. They've been doing it when we go into the NBA arenas, for example. You got to show your vaccination card in some cases. There's PCR tests and stuff like that. So the bottom line is they think that the precautions are there, and that's the answer to your question.
I also used to hug everybody, not doing that anymore. So for me,
Well, listen,
that's where
I shook a lot of hands this weekend. I can't deny it.
Yeah, but I'm sure you weren't that happy about it, or you had the hand sanitizer.
No, I wasn't, but I did it.
Exactly. All right, we'll keep
I'm
going.
trying to see, how did you end up in Miami?
Oh, I'm just handling some business, bro. And getting the sunshine.
Hold on, can you repeat that? You're what? You're handling business?
I'm handling some personal business in Miami. I'm real business in Miami. But also, I must confess, I'm thawing out. Because I was freezing in Cleveland and I needed to thaw out, a little bit and recover. Listen, do you see me? Molly, you work next to me every day. Do you see my spirit? Do you see my spirit?
Yeah, no. You know what? You look younger. You look lighter. You look happy.
Do you see?
No, you do. You need this.
Listen,
I didn't
tell
complain.
the bosses,
I'm happy you got that.
Tell the bosses, do you see how happy I am?
Yeah,
that's why I'm mad at Juwan Howard too, because he ruined my day because I got to talk about, him being disciplined, and I love the guy. Yeah. And I got to talk about this because I'm in a very good mood.
No.
I'm in a very good mood.
Even your shirt goes with the vibe. Stephen A., this is what you need to do after. Yeah. It's not expensive at all. Take your people, go to Havana 57, get the chicken with the rice and beans, have a mojito, after do the Cuban coffee.
Too much, Molly.
Cheap, it is
too
fun.
much.
What?
Too much. Molly, I got a spot with the sunshine coming right down on me. I'm going to be chilling. You know what I'm saying? In about an hour or so, the sun will be beaming down on me before I got to handle my business later on this evening. I got business plans, but at the end of the day, the sun will be shining on me for the next several hours. I need no advice, Molly. No advice at all about what I'm going to do with my day. I am good.
I was giving you a recommendation because I love Cuban food.
You do that. When you can get down here, you should get down here, Molly. Some of these days, you should find a way to get down here in the future. It's beautiful. It really
My
is.
goodness. Okay, it's cool. Rub it in.
South Beach, bro.
All good.
It's
I'll put on my big puffer and get out of here. All right, guys.
If I want to, I will. Other than that, nah. No, that's why I ain't been in it yet. The answer might change. I don't know, but as of now, nah. The goal's not high enough.
Okay, before I kick it to you, Stephen A., we'd all love to see John the dunk contest, right? One of the best in-game dunkers. Props to New York's own Obi Toppin, who won it. But I understand, Mr. Smith, you are not satisfied with the state of the dunk contest. So please propose to us how one would fix the dunk contest and bring it back to glory days. Oh, yeah, go ahead.
Let me sit
hold
back.
on.
Let me sit
Kendrick
back.
Perkins, I'm glad that you are on this segment with me because I want to look at you when I say this to a national television audience. That was the worst slam dunk contest in the history of basketball. It was a national atrocity. It was awful. Somebody need to say it, so I'm going to say it. Now, I'm happy that a Knick won something. We actually had a New York Knick that won something. That was Obi Toppin, okay? It was so bad. It's one of the rare moments that I think we should actually hide a trophy. We should actually hide the trophy. That's how bad it was. I would like Adam Silver, Mark Tatum, Tim Frank, and everybody else I know at the NBA office to expect a call from me. This week's holiday today, but expect a call from me this week because I'm dead serious. I don't blame y'all for laughing, but I'm dead serious. They gonna hear from me. We cannot have this atrocity showing up on a Saturday night for NBA All-Star Weekend. It was a national embarrassment. Listen, I'm fit. Here's what I put in perspective. I'm 54 years old. I struggle, Kendrick Perkins, with bad knees And guess what? I could have missed that many dunks. I mean, you didn't do anything I didn't do. I couldn't do. Who can't miss dunks all the damn time? And listen, if you Obi Toppin, I saw you do it in the game, but somehow you missed. You Toscano Anderson, when the hell did you dunk like that before? I heard that you don't do that in practice. How the hell you gonna do it at a slam dunk contest? Cole Anthony, major love for him and promise. I love his game. I love all of their games. And Jalen Green, I love all of their potential. I'm not knocking them as players or anything like that. But you Cole Anthony, you're not a dunker. So if you're gonna dunk, what the hell are you doing putting on Timberlands for? I love your daddy. He's a friend of mine. He gonna get a call from me too. What the hell was that? What, the Timberlands? Really? I mean, you got to be kidding me. So here's my proposal. Here's my proposal, KP. It's just the truth. It's just the truth, man. I mean, somebody got to say it. Somebody got to say it, damn it. Now, KP, look up in the camera, because I got an idea for you. And this is dead serious. I'm dead serious about this. Are you ready for this idea, KP? KP, you and I both know we could go to any park in America and see these cats dunking. We got cats in the streets that wasn't blessed and fortunate enough to be associated with organized basketball in a fashion that would enable them to be in the NBA. But these brothers can play. And obviously the NBA got money. I am proposing on national television a national slam dunk tournament nationwide, all throughout the cities throughout America. And we find, based on that competition, the top 10 dunkers, okay? And then ultimately you find like 5 to 7 of them, pick the best 5 to 7 of them based on the slam dunk competitions we witness, and we get the NBA players to sponsor. I'm not talking about monetarily, but I'm talking about the support out of those 7, which ones they want to pick or what have you. You keep the players involved, but they don't have to participate in the dunk contest. We get cats off the streets in the park, Rutgers Park. You could go to the West Side. You're in Chicago. You could go someplace in South Central LA or somewhere in Long Beach. It could be anywhere. Nationwide competition. I promise you, Molly. And Kendrick Perkins knows I'm telling the truth. You see brothers in the park, in the streets, that can dunk and put on an absolute show and let them get sponsored by their favorite all-star. The winner gets $1 million. The runner-up gets $500,000. The consolation third prize gets $100,000, okay? And if you want to mix up some of those funds to throw it to an all-star's favorite charity or whatever, you do it. But we got to get cats who can put on a show in the dunk contest. Because what we witnessed Saturday night was a national atrocity. It was the worst slam dunk contest in the history of basketball. Notice I didn't say the NBA. It could have been the CBA. It could have been the park. It could have been anything. I have never seen a slam dunk contest that bad. That bad. It was that. I literally, and you know how I am about the cold weather, I literally left and walked outside in the cold and said, I'm done with this. I'm done. It was horrible. It was horrible. Go ahead, KP.
Hey, Stephen,
you go.
Go ahead. Look, I'm all in for your idea, man. I think that's a wonderful idea because the fact of the matter is, man, you got to get people who are hungry. You got to get people that really want to do it. Their hearts got to be into it. And you're right. It's guys around the world, that's around the country, that's not in the NBA, that is athletic as hell and will come in and absolutely put on the show. To be honest, this is the best idea I've heard for us correcting the dunk contest, because everything you just said, I wanted to come over here and say the same thing, but I didn't know you was going to take it this far. But you're absolutely right. It was horrible. And look, we have to clean up this dunk contest because it means so much. We cannot take this for granted. I'm so happy that the All-Star game was so great that it could
Yes.
cover up for some of the whatever it was in the dunk contest. You know what it was for me though? It was pure torture. It was like with my grandfather when he used to he used to make me watch the Westerns with him. It was torture like that. I mean, he used to literally make me watch the Westerns, and I hated every moment of it.
To me, it was when I had to when my mother would make me eat like spinach or something like. I don't know what the hell I don't know what to compare it to. It was that damn bad. It was that damn bad. But I will say this, Molly, because I know we got to go. I will say this: the reason why I'm talking about the NBA players being involved is because I'm talking about the NBA players marketing it by saying, yo, my guy's going to win. No, my guy's going to win.
Yeah.
Wait till you see this, brother.
Like that.
You use them to help draw because I swear to you, Molly, I swear to you, there are brothers across this nation
I believe
that would
you.
get up for that competition and they would put on a show 50,000 times better than that atrocity that we witnessed Saturday night.
I'm with you. And I got to say this as quickly as possible. Sam Tanucci, our producer, is going to kill me. He's been in my ear trying to rap. But it's my favorite event of All-Star Weekend. It's got to get better. And if the stars aren't going to participate and they're not going to take it seriously, I love where that is. Because it gets philanthropy involved, charity. It gives people opportunity. It gets younger people involved and still includes the players. And then I think we'd actually put on a show. So it's one of your best ideas
Oh, they took it seriously. They just couldn't do it.